Hey, what's up everybody? It's J-Rock right here. Today we're gonna be reviewing X-Men Bishop's Crossing. Now this includes issues Uncanny X-Men 281 to 293. The majority of this takes place in 1992, I believe. And the latter end, the last few issues take place in 1993. And also the majority of this was written by Scott Lobdell. Art was by Whilce Portacio with a few fill-in artists along the way. So this story starts off with the Reavers, they're chit-chatting, and they have one of their leaders, Donald Pierce. Him alongside Lady Deathstrike are like the two leaders of the Reavers. But Donald Pierce is also a member of the Hellfire Club. He's always felt more Reaver than Hellfire Club to me. But the Hellfire Club is mutants, like a high-class snobby mutants. And the Reavers are a lot of humans that have cyborg enhancements. So Donald Pierce is in between. He's like mutant, but he also has cyborg enhancements. So so that's why he's in two teams, right? Over the years, Reavers in comics has been kind of they're kind of like your metaphor for your skinheads. So that's what they are here. And your Hellfire Club is like your politicians. So right now the Reavers are chit chatting, whatever, and Sentinels just raid the spot and they're looking for Donald Pierce. So everybody else is like, hey, they're just looking for Pierce. So the rest of us, let's get out of the Sentinels' way, let them take Pierce. And this panel right here looks badass by Will Portacio. I'm iffy on his art. I find it like very. It doesn't. It's not bad art, but it's not memorable. It's very forgettable, very middle of the road. But sometimes he has some panels that really surprise me. This Sentinel one being one of them. So once we find out the Sentinels are after these guys, we go to the Hellfire Club, and White Queen is there. They're here to set up a meeting with him to tell him somebody is targeting all mutants. So before White Queen gets a chance to do that, a would-be assassin gets caught in the act trying to target White Queen. While the X-Men are there, they're like, what's going on? So, obviously things pop off and everything starts moving at a fast pace. So all this is going on, you're like, well, who's targeting all these mutants, right? Who's going after them? So the big bad pops up. It's this guy named Fitzroy. He looks very lame. Like his costume looks ridiculous. I don't know who came up with this character design. I don't know if it was Portacio or a team effort, but that shit look whack. So you see him here, you're like, oh, it's gonna be a throwaway villain, you have him for one story arc and he's out, right? But as the story progresses, you find out, you start noticing, you're like, nah, they're building him up as a mainstay. They're building him up to be like a big threat. He's easily taking care of the X-Men. They're having a tough time with him. And then bam, another new character shows up, being aka Bishop. So Bishop comes from the future to the past through this portal to capture Fitzroy. It turns out Fitzroy is this escaped convict from the future. So we got all this time travel stuff going on. I'm usually not the biggest fan of time travel because it can get so confusing and it can just mess up continuity. But I learned to deal with it with X-Men. With most other books, I try to avoid reading books that have too much of that in it because it can ruin stories for me. What do you guys think about time travel? Let me know if you guys feel the same way. So now Bishop meets the X-Men and so forth. Fitzroy gets away. But we get to know a little bit more about Bishop. They have a flashback issue where they show him back in his time. This flashback issue, we change artists, which I like when they do that, when they do the flashbacks with a different artist, so that you know when the art looks different, it's a different time. And John Romita Jr. does the art here, and I like his Bishop. It looks wicked. To me, when I think Punisher, I always think John Romita Jr.'s Punisher. And he looks kind of similar with the whole Jerry curl and everything going on. He looks like, he looks like a badass. So once he breaks down his story to the X-Men, he tells them, in my time, you guys are legends. You guys died for a righteous cause and so forth. So they accept him as a member because they see the X's on his suit. Now when Bishop goes on missions with them, he can be a little bit hardcore. Much like Punisher, he can be a little bit too much, too aggressive. And the X-Men gotta tell him, hey, tone it down a little. At this time, Wolverine isn't with the X-Men, so he's kind of taking Wolverine's place as the guy that like sometimes goes a little too far. And he starts explaining to us, you know, back in my time, the world just got worse. It's a shithole. So you're not in your time, and this time we don't do all that. So Storm, as the leader of the X-Men, she takes Bishop under her wing. She's like, I'll guide you and I'll teach you the ways of this current time. Obviously, you have the skills, you know what you're doing, you know how to defend yourself, but you don't have the social skills of how to fit in this new world because you're a man at a time at this point. Be patient with him and caring about his situation, how he's stuck in another world basically with no family, no nothing. Bishop, back in his time, he saw her as like like it was his hero. She was one of his heroes. So he's idolizing her, and as he's idolizing her, he's kind of starting to form a little bit of an attraction towards her. And the art here, they do a great job showing you that without ever saying it in any word bubbles or in or through any other characters. Just the art says it, the way the facial expressions towards each other, the way she's walking around in a nightgown and stuff like that. You're just like, oh, I know I was like rooting for them to hook up. I'm like, oh, I hope they become a couple. They, you know, I want to see what happens there. That would be a very interesting dynamic. I was like, screw Forge, because Forge is over here whining over spilled milk and still wanting to be with Storm, right? And I screw Forge. I kind of want to see this new relationship develop. They're always hinting at it, but it never happens. Now we have this cover where Storm is standing in the rain. This was clearly inspired by the movie The Bodyguard, which was coming out around this time, where Whitney Houston is standing in the rain, right? It comes out very romantic, and it goes along with the whole storyline that's happening at this moment between her and Bishop. Like this cover, I'm digging it. This was also done by Whilce Portacio. So like I said, he has his moments, but overall he's very forgettable in my opinion. Much like the writer right here, Scott Lobdell. The stories here are very mediocre. The overall plot, it's decent, but the dialogue on these very boring, very lackluster. Everything the characters are saying is just to move the story along, to explain to you what's going on. They never have character moments where they're just having conversations about other stuff. While all this is happening, we have another storyline developing where I guess it turns out Colossus has an older brother named Mikhail. Oh my god, why does he have an older brother? I do not even know. I don't even know why they created him. But he has this older brother that he was a part of this NASA space program for Russia, and he went through this void, if you will, kind of like a time portal, and Colossus lost him a long time ago. So he's been trapped in this other universe for so long. Other universe, he became a great leader, and he's been helping his people fight a war against the rebellion, being this other group of knights or whatever. All in all, that story was whack, pretty forgettable. I don't even want to bother with it too much. Point being, at the end, they bring Mikhail, Colossus' brother, back to the current time through the void, and with his powers, he shuts down the void. So now he's rolling with the X-Men in the X-Mansion. Now that everybody's back at the mansion, the next issue is by Tom Rainey. He's on art. Now the art here, I think it really picks up. I quite enjoyed this last artist as well. So this starts off where a woman is battered and beaten in the beginning. Colossus saves her, brings her into the mansion. It turns out it's Callisto. The first thing I said is like, no way, Callisto ain't that fine. You know what I'm saying? She do not look that good. So I guess in a previous storyline we would have to go back to find out what happened. She has been turned very attractive. And now that she's been beaten, the X-Men save her. They tell her what happened. She said she's been cocky. She goes, now that I'm good looking and I fit in society, I don't want to roll with the Morlocks anymore. Morlocks being the team she used to lead before in the tunnels and the sewers. They were all mutants with deformalities, right? And she was one of them. She has scars and so forth. And now that now that she's good looking, she's like, I don't even want to hang out with them anymore. I want to go hang out with the regular humans. So her people kind of turned against her and they beat her almost to death, but luckily she just escaped. So this story started off very interesting with that. I was like, oh, now I gotta find out how she got this way. to heal her from all these wounds she has, this other Morlock tries to save her. He's called the Healer. He tries to heal her, but in healing her, he turns her back to her normal look. So now she's pissed off. She's like, I used to be popular and attractive. Now I'm back to being a Morlock. I thought this was an interesting story because it shows at a side of humanity that sometimes something as easy as not being as pretty or as attractive as the next man or woman can be enough to change someone's personality and attitude and make them more of a jerk just because they don't look as good as the next man. So it shows how just little things like this can completely change the way someone is. All it like here, Callisto, something as simple as just making her attractive made her a better person because society treated her different. People liked her. People wanted to be with her. And if you know anything about Callisto, Callisto is a horn dog. She tries to force herself on men all the time, but she's kind of ugly. She has deformalities, so a lot of times they're not interested. So now that she doesn't need to throw herself at men because they'll throw themselves at her because of her new look, her complete outlook on life, her complete personality changed. And now that she's back to normal, she's back to kind of being a jerk and aggressive and angry at the world. So it kind of shows here, I like what they did here, that it shows how we live in a superficial world, for now that the Morlock situation where all the Morlocks are attacking Callisto wasn't as simple as we once thought. What ended up happening was back in X-Force issue 9, one of the new leader of the Morlocks, while Callisto was gone, did something to this young mutant. And this mutant has this strong psyche power. So this mutant, like they told him, oh, Callisto left us, she doesn't care about us, so forth. So he started panicking. And his power, he controlled all the Morlocks, and that's why they're all going after Callisto. Because I guess his anger towards her leaving them. So by him being angry and not knowing how to control his psyche ability, he controlled all the Morlocks to be angry towards her. So Professor Xavier finds out about this. He's looking for the mutant that's doing this. He finds out it's just a scared child, so he just wants to help him. He's not trying to fight him or anything. We have a nice moment here where once he saves this child, he's talking about, yeah, I know why Callisto acted the way she did, because he at one point was able to walk again. And now he's back in a wheelchair, so you can kind of relate to why Callisto left and why she's angry, because she's back in the same boat again. And as he's talking about this, Callisto shows up and just kicks him in the face and they start fighting. Callisto versus Professor X. And Callisto, when she leads back to the tunnels to look for Professor X, Mikhail, being Colossus's brother, wanted to go with Callisto. And she's back to take charge and be the leader. He teams up with her and he says, I want to be the leader, because that's what he used to be in his old, in this other universe he came from. He used to be the leader of an army. So now he wants to be the leader of the Morlocks. And the first thing he says is, oh, all the Morlocks are so ugly and deformed. I want to send you guys to just kill yourselves. Like, we don't need you in society. What? And then they tell him, like, why are you sending them to kill themselves? He goes, I'm doing them a favor. It'd be cruel to let them live this shitty life. And they're telling him, like, who are you to play God with them? Like, let them live their life. And he thinks he's doing them a favor. And obviously the X-Men are against his idea. So he's no longer part of the X-Men group. And Colossus is deeply disappointed on him. He's like, this isn't the brother. This isn't the brother I used to have. He's changed now that he spent some time in this alternate universe. He's a different man. He has some evil in him. Okay, also, Storm is, pondering in her head, like, do I quit the X-Men? Do I stay? Because she's realizing that she doesn't really have a life outside of the X-Men. She's all about the cause, equal rights, and, mutants, humans, superheroes, everybody should be treated equally. She's so into that she dedicates 24 hours a day to that, allowing no time for a personal life, relationships, regular jobs, and so forth. So she's starting to realize this, that she's kind of cheating herself from life. She has no life. It's the equivalent of a workaholic. Basically is what she is. Story arc had the most depth, but it kind of had the less story, but it had the most depth as far as for the characters themselves, how they all make sacrifices. Much like in life, we all make sacrifices for some of the more important things. Issue, I quite like this last one as far as with the character, what they did with the characters, but story-wise, it was very forgettable. Nothing important happened. So I think overall, this book as a whole, I think it's very skippable. You don't really need to read it unless you're a completionist or you just like you're a big fan of continuity and you must read every book. Then you're gonna want to read this one. But if you're your casual reader, there's other stories out there you can find because here the writing was very mediocre and the art for the most part was very mediocre. There's other much better things out there. Okay guys, I hope you like what you saw. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more of the same, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way it'll update you on my future content. Other than that, I'd like to thank everybody for spending some time out of their day to check out this video, and I'll check you guys out next time.